Hello, thank you so much for your invitation to prepare this conference. I was sent some questions to think about what we can share tonight, and reading those questions I told myself, well, those questions are questions that I ask myself. I think that as a lot of women who are from the immigration first and second generation, but who are also from like a colonial history, past colonial history or a current colonial history, we are always asking ourselves, what should we become, what would we like to become, and we ask ourselves, what are our priorities and struggles. So for me, the first question when we talk about Palestine from a feminist perspective is the condition of the Palestinian women.
Et moi-même, en réalité, les figures
for me,
feminine
figures from Palestine that I refer to, that inspire me, are first of all women that lived through the national struggle for Palestine. Of course, in Palestinian society, there are systems of oppression. There is a patriarchal reality, an everyday patriarchy that Palestinian women have to fight against. But what is interesting is that the feminist dimension of the Palestinian struggles for women is pleading for the integration of Palestinian women in the political struggle, in the national political struggle. It was also defending Palestinian women that were imprisoned because their existence have specificities linked to the Israeli colonization. Palestinian women fighting for Palestinian liberation also took arms and took part in the armed resistance. Right now in the Palestinian struggles, we don't speak about this anymore because right now the representation of the armed resistance in Palestine is centered around Hamas, and it's very masculine, but historically speaking, there's a lot of women who took arms. They were not given arms, they took them. They fought for taking arms. So there's a lot of Palestinian figures, women, that had to lead a feminist struggles through this very specific conflict that is a prison. I also feel, as a woman, I also feel imprisoned in my condition that is the condition of a migrant, the condition of an exilee, the condition of a woman. Colonialism is the prison I'm stuck in, and those women were stuck in the same prison. Our struggles as women and as feminists are diluted in an oppression that is even bigger than patriarchy in Palestinian society. And this oppression, this specific oppression that is colonialism, participates in invisibilizing the specific problems that Palestinian women have to face as women. Today, the Palestinian society is fragmented politically, geographically,
le cas de,
Of course, the
l'Iran.
political fragmentation is very important. If we take into consideration the case of Iran,
Contre un système
well, the struggle of Iranian women is against a state
Et si vous voulez, on a une lecture
that uses specific dynamics of oppression that have been identified and analyzed. But right now in Palestine, the state and political authority is fragmented. So for instance, in Cisjordania, in the West Bank, women depend on a different political authority that, for instance, women in Gaza or Palestinian women in Syria or Jordan. So all of these Palestinian women depend on different political authorities depending on their localization, geographical localization. So it crosses lots of different colonial oppressions and political oppressions that all have their own specificities. So in addition to these specific oppressions, there's also oppressions linked to their condition as women. So if I come back to what I wanted to say today, well, Palestinian women have a lot of converging points with struggles, feminist struggles in general, and specifically feminist struggles in the region, because we have to talk about the regional dimension of patriarchy. Of course, patriarchy takes different forms depending on geographical and cultural places. So, of course, French women here do not face the same problems as Palestinian women in this or this different region, but there is similarities that we can find. There is common aggressors, common dominators, So in different, for instance, in the Palestinian society, there's no state. It's a political authority that is called the Palestinian Authority. In Gaza, well, Hamas is an organization that's also a political party. There's also a religious movement that was structured in different times. So those different oppressors, those different structures of power structure the society they take place in. So of course, there's similarities, but there's also differences, and today I want to talk about those differences. So those differences in struggles are essentially about the nature of oppression. In a lot of countries in the region, the state oppression is based on the ideology of a theocratic state. And on the other hand, on the Palestinian side, the oppression is firstly marked with Israeli occupation and colonization. What is interesting is to see that the way women organize is different depending on the places they live in. And so the movements of resistance, the feminist movements of resistance and the feminine movements of resistance are different from the masculine movements of resistance. There's not a very clear gap, but there's more a hierarchy between them. And of course, this hierarchy is structured by patriarchy. So, if I try to be clearer, to call yourself a Palestinian woman needs you to call yourself Palestinian. You need to be able to call yourself Palestinian, and it's the same for queer people.
Essayez d'être féministe ou queer chez les Palestiniens, vous allez vite voir ce qui va vous arriver. Et ça, c'est une rhétorique coloniale en réalité, parce que si tout a été fait pour déposséder une société,
everything was made to depossess the Palestinian society. So, of course, if you want to fight as a woman, as a queer person in Palestine, people are going to say, well, the first question is a national question. The most important question is the Palestinian question, but it's a false argument that we have to fight against as well. It also invisibilizes everything that has existed and that exists right now in Palestine in terms of feminist and queer resistance. For instance, if you look at the British occupation of Palestine, you can see that women were part of the decolonial revolution. They also worked on the Arabic language, for instance, so they could communicate with prisoners. They were intertwining and changing different syllables of Arabic words, also in like popular songs and all of that, so they could communicate in an encrypted way. I'm not able to understand this language because it's very sophisticated techniques to communicate during the British occupation. Because the colonizers from Great Britain spoke Arabic, so they needed to create this new language. So in this era, Palestinian women were already stuck in this category of colonized people, and they were already dehumanized as such. So it's very important to keep this in mind. Forgetting this sometimes makes it impossible to intertwine different struggles, the feminist struggle, the struggle between colonization, etc. So we have to keep all the dimensions of what is to be a feminist woman. And a Palestinian feminist woman. I have a lot of anger against white feminisms because they do not talk about the genocide enough. I do not understand how you can call yourself a feminist without talking about the genocide that is going on in Palestine. 70% of the people that are killed in the genocide are women and children. Most of the feminist movements, white feminist movements right now, do not talk about Palestine, do not talk about the genocide. Also because women that are killed in the genocide are seen as Muslim women, so this is also why they are absent from their struggles and their talks. Palestinian women face, of course, Israeli colonialism.
Survivre en tant que palestinienne pour ensuite pouvoir survivre dans la société palestinienne.
Israeli colonialism forces them to survive first as Palestinian and then as women. But for me, the instrumentalization here and there of the struggle of women in Iran, of the struggles and also the instrumentalization of the Muslim religion, Islam. Yeah. In France, for instance, Muslim women are dehumanized, specifically in a lot of spaces of white feminism. If you practice Islam, if you're Muslim in France, if you wear the hijab, it doesn't mean that you're radical, that you're submitted to patriarchy.
What I heard a lot was that, like, maybe it's time for you to do at home what Iranians are doing in their own places. So a lot has been done to oppose women, Muslim women who wear the hijab, and to oppose them to women who fight in order to be not forced to wear it. So while doing that was just like also denying the meaning of what they were doing, these women. For instance, for the women who wear the hijab, they fight for the right to have their own religion. So for them, it's a feminist struggle. Some people in France don't understand that when this woman says, I want to wear the hijab, it's a right. They say, I don't know why I'm assaulted for wearing that in the street, instrumentalized, insulted in the street in France, where I live.
Qui se targue d'être un pays laïque. Et de l'autre,
and on the other hand, there's also a very specific colonial scheme that concerns Iranian women. We instrumentalize the struggle of Iranian women. We instrumentalize their struggles in a way like we want to defend their struggles. So we instrumentalize the struggles of Iranian women to serve Islamophobic discourses, basically. But these women in Iran fight for the freedom of wearing or not wearing the hijab, of dressing up or not dressing up, of being or not being religious. We are not divided, but we are being divided by Western interpretations, by assignations that we actually refuse. And also in Palestine, there's not just Muslim women, there's Jewish women, there's Christian women, not just Muslim women, also atheist women, women who do not practice religion, who do not believe in religion. So we are facing, all of us, the same challenge. All of this is linked. All of those systems of oppression and domination are linked. We are talking about the same thing tonight. Of course, the rise of liberalism, neoliberalism, racism are political dynamics that sacrifice indigenous people, that sacrifice the struggles of the peoples, that sacrifice people who are struggling for progressive ideas, and women are part of those struggles, of course. Well, all of these people are sacrificed, and the common thing, the common ground for all of us tonight is neocolonialism, is racism, is precarization and criminalization of those struggles. In France, we can call feminists terrorists. We can call ecologists terrorists. Even in France, specifically in France, the far right is already governing through political alliances, of course, but it's already in power. So Palestinians are in the center of all this global change. It's one of the last colonial conflicts in the world, and it's very interesting to see, to understand the position of Palestinians, who are the bigger allies of Israel. It's far-right Bardella and Le Pen in France, it's Milei in Argentina. So far-right politicians, French far-right politicians were invited in Israel for a conference as well. So the bigger allies of Israel are members of the European far-right. I am a member of the European Parliament, so I can say this. I can see that a lot of far-right politicians from Europe are invited in Israel, and those deputies, those European deputies, also spread Israeli words and thoughts in the European Parliament. In those discourses, Palestinians are defined as barbarians, as animals, as Islamists that we have to fight against. So this is very interesting to draw a parallel also between the struggles in Iran and the struggles in Palestine. Because in Palestine, power dynamics are capitalistic, are colonialists, just like in Iran, just like in Argentina. If capitalism and colonialism try to take over resources to actually dominate the marginalized communities. So, yeah. Tonight, I feel very, very tired because of the anti-colonial struggle. I feel that all of my struggles, all of my words are instrumentalized. As a Palestinian, I talk about what I would like to win over, what I would like to succeed in for my mother, my sisters, my daughters. All of that is confiscated by colonialism. And so without all of the struggles and those feminist struggles, there is no anti-colonial struggle.